Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this video in one go, therefore I apologise in advance if I stumble over my words going forwards, and indeed if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well. If there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it can't be helped, and hopefully it's not too much of an issue for you. This is yet another Eurovision 2021 related video. Before I get into the main point of this particular video, I just want to say that lots of videos are going to be hopefully filmed and uploaded over the coming days. In fact, this Thursday, as I'm recording this, that's the 4th of March, we've got about 4 or 5 songs being released. So there'll be plenty of videos, there'll be one big blog post, all being well. As always, links in the description to my other social media pages. I just a few minutes ago actually listened to the North Macedonian snippet. Can't say I'm that impressed. I listened to the Belgian snippet. You don't really find out anything in the space of about 5 or 6 seconds, but I have a feeling the Belgian song is actually going to be very impressive indeed. The Serbian snippet sounds very promising, and the Moldovan snippet sounds quite promising too. And I think we're definitely probably going to have 1 or 2 other songs on Thursday or Friday as well. Anyway, it was announced earlier today that the European Broadcasting Union and the whole team involved with this year's contest over in the Netherlands, they have said they are going to plough ahead with Scenario B. You'll remember that a few months ago there was a sort of 4-stage plan for Eurovision 2021 that was outlined by the EBU. Scenario A was pretty much a contest as normal. Scenario B is a socially distanced event. Scenario C is where some delegations travel, some don't, and Scenario D is where everybody stays at home, no fans whatsoever, but the whole show is brought together in Rotterdam. And it's worth saying that we are obviously now in March. There's not long to go until this year's Eurovision is very much upon us. Now there is nearly a 50-page document online that you can go through, outlining in a lot of detail what this year's Eurovision is going to look like, because it does seem as though it will be Scenario B, which means that the Ahoy in Rotterdam could be up to 80% full for this year's contest, or it could be as low as 20%. We wait and see. It all depends on the virus situation over in the Netherlands and also in every other European country, plus Australia too, of course. So I've got the document in front of me. I'm just sort of going to go through it a little bit in this video, but like I said, you can have a look at it as well. 4 scenarios. Scenario B, I'm reading from the document. This implies a Eurovision Song Contest with social distancing applied. Downscaled delegations present in Rotterdam, amended activities in and surrounding the city of Rotterdam. 500 journalists can be present. It's usually somewhere in the region of 2,000, I think. Some 1,000 journalists will be facilitated through a digital press centre. Oh, well, there we go. This scenario is deemed feasible with solid health and safety measures implemented. In Scenario B, we may have shows with no audience or a limited audience between 20 and 80%, depending on what is allowed by government regulation. And it really could be a case that we enter May and still not know what scenario we're going to get. And that's where things could get really complicated. The success of this year's contest is highly dependent on adequate establishment, implementation and compliance with strict health and safety measures, particularly in relation to preventing the spread of the coronavirus. The implementation of health and safety measures is overseen by the Internal Supervisory Board, made up of directors of NPO, Afrotros and NOS, the EBU and the international supervisory body of the contest on behalf of all participating broadcasters, the ESC Reference Group. Risk assessment and mitigation is an ongoing process. ESC 2021 has adopted the risk management tool for mass gatherings of the World Health Organization. In the Netherlands, the measures and guidelines of the National Institute for Public Health and the Environment apply. The RIVM is operating under supervision of the Ministry of Health, Welfare and Sports, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a bit about enforcement. And they really are going big on this, as they need to. It really could be the case that Eurovision is the first major event in Europe after the main eye of the storm, if you will, with this virus. So a Eurovision going ahead with fans, it would be a really wonderful occasion. It would just be terrific, because it would really feel for a lot of people as though things are sort of going back to some sort of normality. What else do we have here? Let's move on. So the next section is basic principles, symptoms, medical help, blah blah. Stay 1.5 meters apart. Avoid large gatherings. The thing is, Eurovision is a large gathering. Even if you have less of a crowd, it's still a lot of people. Avoid large gatherings and physical contact, including hugging, kissing, handshaking and fist bumping. Wash your hands often. Sneeze into your elbow. Wear a mask at all times indoors. We know all of this stuff. Many of us have been following it. Social distancing. In accordance with Dutch government guidelines, which of course might change between now and May, stay 1.5 meters apart at all times. When social distancing cannot be practiced, wearing a mask is always mandatory, except while performing on stage or while rehearsing for a performance. If social distancing is not possible for operational production reasons, the guidelines are: when not seated, wearing a mask is always required. When seated and social distancing cannot be maintained, wearing a mask is required unless plexiglass dividers have been installed and effective ventilation is available. And adhere to all hygiene guidelines, particularly disinfection of surfaces and equipment after use. Disinfecting hand gels and wipes will be widely available. We've then got mask guidelines. Only certified N95 or FFP2 masks are allowed. Face shields, homemade masks or blue surgical masks are not allowed. And then it tells you how to put on a mask. I think we are all well aware how to do that. Testing. To facilitate testing at a large scale, a dedicated facility will be set up in the vicinity of the Ahoy. It's worth saying that the Ahoy was actually used as a sort of makeshift hospital last year. I don't know what's happening there at the moment. I want to say tennis is happening there at the moment, but anyway. Tests will be executed by a qualified third party to ensure maximum independence in establishing the testing result. The interval of testing will be decided at a later stage, depending on the most recent scientific insights and expert recommendations. Individuals working in close proximity to each other for longer periods of time may request to be tested more frequently. To ensure sufficient capacity and avoid long waiting times, testing at the Ahoy will be conducted according to a schedule. Please allow for 15 to 30 minutes extra time to go through the process. And then it talks about the types of testing. I have been having tests that I've administered myself twice a week because of work. How reliable they are, who knows really, but I haven't had the virus, thankfully. When potentially exposed to the virus, you go into quarantine. And we know how that works. When tested positive, you go into isolation. Stay in your hotel room or at home. Avoid any contact with others. If you tested positive but had no symptoms, you must isolate for 5 days. If you have not had any symptoms 5 days after testing positive, you can end your isolation. If you tested positive but had symptoms, you can end your isolation after being in isolation for a week, and if you have been free of any symptoms for 24 hours. That's interesting. So if you had symptoms, but you've been... Oh, okay. Okay. Contact tracing. There's all of that. I'm not going to go into it in much depth, but this might be useful for you if you are still considering travelling to the Netherlands this May. It says keep note with whom, when and where you have personally been in close contact, and keep records for at least 72 hours. It's all a bit fiddly, but necessary, I'm afraid. Vaccination. While vaccination is a personal choice everyone has to make for themselves, we of course hope as many people as possible will be vaccinated prior to the production period. However, vaccination is not required to work at this year's contest. Do I still need to get tested even if I've been vaccinated? Yes, you do. Do I still need to wear a mask or practice social distancing if I've had a vaccination? Yes, you do. Then we've got sanitation, which I really don't think I need to go into much, but let's just say everything will be wiped down a lot. Travelling to Rotterdam. Prior to your journey, monitor your health throughout the 10-day period prior to your journey. If you have any known symptoms during this period, get a test straight away. We recommend you quarantine for 5 days before departure. Reserve seat. Oh, this is mainly for the press and delegations, this, because it does say reserve seats together with your fellow delegates or colleagues. A negative PCR test result within 72 hours prior to departure. A negative rapid test within 4 hours prior to boarding. So you could do that before leaving for the airport, for example, I guess. Make sure you have the necessary travel documents. That's pretty obvious, isn't it? While travelling, wear a mask, blah, blah, blah. During your stay, delegates must stay in their official hotel at all times, except for official activities. So, really, apart from all the necessary things you are going to be doing, if you're a delegate, you're just going to be cooped up in your hotel room, really, aren't you? And then it talks about returning home, and if you test positive, isolation, blah, blah, blah. If you are travelling to the Netherlands, you must be able to present the following. An official negative PCR test result. This applies to almost all travellers. The PCR test result must meet certain requirements. You can have it on a phone, digitally or on paper. And an official negative rapid test result. This applies to travellers from almost all countries, but only to people travelling by aircraft or ship. Again, this test must meet certain requirements. A completed and printed negative test declaration signed by you. This applies only if you are coming from a country that is not in the EU, so Britain now, or the Schengen area, and you are not a national of an EU or Schengen area. It says here a travel ban is currently in place for non-EU EEA citizens. You will need additional documentation to travel to this year's contest. You may also need a visa, and so on and so forth. The people. It talks about crew, staff, and suppliers. I mean, everybody is going to be on the ball with this, I'm sure. Talking about delegates. Pretty much repeating what it already says before. The delegation bubble, sound check, makeup and hairstyling, on-stage performances. The arena floor will feature an enlarged green room without an audience in front of the stage, with additional distance between the booths. Delegations of up to 7 people can be seated in the booths while respecting social distancing guidelines. For the moment, there is no need to wear face masks in the green room as long as people keep their distance, pretty much. While we all understand the intense emotions in the green room during the voting, we ask all delegations to avoid close contact and think of alternative ways to show joint excitement towards the viewers at home. Then it talks about the commentary booths as well, because obviously they're quite close together and there's lots of commentators. Always wear a face mask, blah blah blah. The volunteers, the press, designated working desks cleaned after every use, broad walkways, one-way routing, interview rooms with separate doors for journalists and artists. Microphones should be placed on a table or on a stick or boom pole. Dear me. And then audience and fans. And I suppose this is very relevant if you are thinking of travelling to Rotterdam. Currently, as of early March 2021, large events with audiences at 1.5 metres can only take place under specific circumstances in risk level 1 and 2 out of 4. At the moment of writing, that's unfortunately not the case yet. For that reason, all tickets were refunded in early February. Based on the outcome of the scheduled pilot events, the general situation and forecasts, the Dutch government is expected to re-evaluate the restrictions on events with an audience. A decision about whether we will have an audience in the arena will be taken at the latest in mid-April, depending on the circumstances. Yeah. Then it talks about accommodation, because obviously where you're staying, they have to meet certain criteria as well. It goes into such detail, this document, even talking about where you should eat your breakfast, which is at the hotel. staying healthy at home, getting from A to B. This talks about parking capacity, coaches, storing luggage, your own transport, public transport. I mean, it's going to be a massive team effort, this. Side events, the opening ceremony, plans are being prepared for various scenarios. The Eurovision Village, the same deal. The heads of delegation meeting, which is in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, all held digitally. And then there's a whole bunch of other information as well. So I know that I waffled through that, but I thought that I would just raise certain points. They really are preparing as hard as they possibly can for scenario B to go ahead, and that is a Eurovision with a crowd. Hopefully as much of a crowd as we can possibly have under the rules, so up to 80%, as low as 20%, or no fans at all, of course. We just wait and see. For now though, the main emphasis is on getting the songs, because at least we will have a contest this year. Like I said at the start of this video, Serbia's coming, Moldova, Belgium, Italy, the Netherlands, that's another country I completely forgot about, North Macedonia. Oh my days, busy times, lots of videos. I'm not sure I'm going to have time to film them all, I'll be totally honest with you, but I will try and film them and upload them as soon as I can. Same with the blog posts. Subscribe if you wish, leave a like if you wish, leave a comment. Somebody asked recently if I would be doing live Eurovision quizzes again on my channel. That's a possibility moving forwards. If you want to see them, let me know, and I can maybe do one at some point soon, maybe over the Easter period. We'll wait and see. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and let me know your thoughts on scenario B. If you're from the Netherlands, do you think fans will be allowed at this year's contest? Maybe you're from Rotterdam. What do you think? Let's have a bit of a discussion in the comments, perhaps. Until next time, there'll be videos galore, all being well. Take care of yourselves, stay healthy, and hopefully the quality wasn't too bad. Bye for now.